Fusion. And we weren't promo code anymore, dude. What was your new catchphrase? We redubbed you something else, dude. Fusion. Were you revert? What were we call? What we rebranded? We rebranded you, dude.
I don't know. Revert.
Oh, dude, we blew it. Maybe someone on the chat will know.
I forgot to.
But you remember we did rebrand you. We were done with promo code and gave you something much more fitting to what you're about.
Yeah. I'll let you know.
Did we just rename you Tony Hawk? No, that wasn't it.
I'll think of something.
Yeah.
It's not coming to me right now. Good to see you.
You too, man. Did you get your new? Did you sign back up for Twitter, dude? I did today. I'm gonna watch.
I never used Twitter. I never used it enough.
I went on like a 5-year hiatus, dude.
Okay.
I boycotted. I had it going. I got in on Twitter in 2009, an account for a long time. I dumped Twitter with like 6,000 followers. That's a lot, but it's more than I got now. I got 3. Go to my Twitter account, yo. Tinfoil brick. I scored the tinfoil brick, dude. That's my Lego channel name. Tinfoil brick apocalypse, dude. Yeah, dude, you get it.
That's good.
You get it.
No, you got it, man. I mean, there's we'll get into the references, I guess, later, but yeah. Kanye was given the Lego reference.
Did Kanye Lego reference?
Yeah.
No.
He's like, in Lego, the movie where like they finally find out that all these companies are ran by one. They're all owned by one company.
Yeah. Dude, Kanye bricked. Fantastic. Kanye's a brick clicker, dude. He's got children. Makes sense, dude.
Yeah, that's like a prerequisite. I think you have to have kids to like really get it. I think that's
get any of it. You mean any of it?
Most of it. You can get some of it, but I think that the real meat of the matter, you really got to have kids. You have to look beyond
I 100% agree that once I had the owl, it's something clicks in your coding where you're like, oh
yeah,
I get it. It taps you into the interdimensional timeline, dude. The God code. Yeah. It's funny. I talked to my buddy out there in Pennsylvania. He doesn't have any kids. He's like my age, man. And you can just hear the difference of the like sort of the aimless wandering of a dude who's got a house, money, stuff, girlfriend, but there's just something missing, man.
Yep. Maybe
it's not the not the full constant battle of staying sane too. Yeah. You got 5 times the fun now.
Yeah, I've been feeling really guilty lately. Like I find myself apologizing to at least one, if not all, the kids every day for like snapping. It's like,
well, dude,
well, the goal is to be tempered, as a father, and to be collected so that they, when they need to, they come, they sit down with daddy, and they talk through whatever they're going through. You don't want to make them scared of you, so they never sit down with you. So my 13-year-old, I find myself just like, I forget that teenagers are lazy. I used to be very lazy as a teenager. I forget that male teenage boys, you're not there yet, but 13-year-olds, they are very lazy, and it pisses me off, like when my kid is lazy. I'm like, so I might become like a drill sergeant, and then I'm like, that's not really the best approach. So but he's doing all right.
That's that's the battle, right? Is it's funny, yeah, like Al and I were having a tough phase couple, like when we first moved up here, all of that, like it was kind of and then it all sort of mellowed out, and then it has mellowed out, but it is that thing where like you got to hold the line.
Yeah.
Which makes you the drill sergeant. Like Al's all like it's funny, like last night we were gonna watch the little Star Wars things. And I was like, all right, dude, you got to clean this up and clean that up. And he's just like, it was like he's like, and I go, because I've asked you like 3 nights in a row, dude.
Dragging the feet.
Like the first night I said, hey man, you got to clean up all your stuff tonight, dude. And you kind of wormed your way out of it. Last night, I told you kind of, I don't know how you got past it. Maybe I spaced it, but tonight I'm drill sergeant, you guy. And he's like, and I go, but dude, if you just done it on the front side, I'm not here drill sergeanting you. Yeah. So pick your, I always, it was funny with my teenager with the minigram. I used to always tell her the most valuable thing I ever learned was this, because she was super lazy too, and I used to make me crazy. And I would always be like, do you want to, I go, do you know how you want to know how you do something right? Is you want to know how to do something right. You asked what? Oh, no, wait, hold on, dude. You asked the laziest guy on the boat. Right. And the basic theory is the laziest guy on the boat will do it fully right and correct the first time. So he doesn't have to do it again, dude. Doesn't want, like, get it done. Like the real lazy person actually makes their life super difficult because there's always someone breathing down their neck. They're always like, come on, clean up this stuff. The real lazy person is actually kind of like front heavy on the thing and like gets it done and like cleans it all up so they can go do what they want to do, dude. Like, and it may be nothing. They may just want to sit and do nothing, but like they got their stuff handled. So no one's coming to bug them. That's what I always try to teach Owl is like, because I got him early, I got her like later, right? As my stepdaughter. I always try to teach Al, I go, dude, cut me off at the pass, dude. Like head me off at the pass when I'm like, did you? And you're like, yeah, I did. And then I'm like, all right. Like I'm defused and on my way to do something else.
Yeah. There was something my friend told me once that kind of stuck with me in relation to how he raises his kids, his boys. He's like, I tell my sons that don't do anything in your life that is going to cause you to hate yourself. And don't do anything to other people that's going to cause them to hate you. And I thought that was pretty, yeah, it sounds pretty like extreme, but the whole thing of like being attentive to what
mindful.
Mindful of what, the task at hand. I mean, these are simple things, right? Like making your bed and picking up, putting your bowl in the sink and,
Are they really that simple?
We're not talking about, real difficult decisions.
If they were that simple, this world wouldn't be the shit show it is, dude. Like,
yeah, well,
you know what I mean? It's funny. Like I always trip like on the messy yard, dude, right? It's yeah. like what it take, like where does that end and begin? It started with the clean yard at some point. And then it was just one piece of paper, one like and then it rained and you're like, that's all wet and lame and blah, blah, blah. It's not easy to be mindful. That's the craziest part about the hardest thing you'll ever have to figure out how to do is be mindful of what you do.
Yeah, the best time to do dishes is when there's no dishes.
Yeah, or
because you just do one dish at a time.
I live with this. I had this buddy in college. I didn't actually live with them, dude. I had this friend of mine, and his whole thing was that he would let dishes pile up in the sink, and then like once a month he would just throw them all away and go to the thrift store and just buy new stack of dishes. Dude, that was his whole trip, dude.
You know, it'd be hilarious if your roommate was like, I'm not going to do the dishes. He's like, you have to do the dishes. And then he let the dishes pile up and he drives down to Home Depot and brings like a couple brothers from across the border to do the dishes for an hour and gets them done that way. That would be a good technique.
It's
just like have
I
them
will
hang out
tell
for a
you,
while, and
I
I'll
mean,
probably be called racist for that, by the way, but that's okay.
well, you have a beard, so you can't be racist, dude.
No, you can be racist if you're racist.
No, dude.
For opening your mouth, you're racist.
Dude, you have intersectional things that allow you to not be racist, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, me as
white
straight
cis male.
white Christian male, there's nothing I am
finished,
the
bro.
most discriminated on class in the country at this point, dude. So I can't say
there's no way forward. I think the way forward now is just to like make fun, just be fun.
The way forward is ye.
Isn't that something? Yay.
So no, dude, I'll tell you what, my one piece of advice I tried to always instill in anyone young is that the key to living with another human being is the dishes, dude. If you can keep the sink scene clean, you can have a pretty harmonious living experience. But it's funny
you say that, because every time I do the dishes, almost every time my wife comes up to me and gives me a big hug, he's like, I love you. It's like, dude, with the dishes. I'm serious. It's funny. It's like the most affection I get, because my wife is Afghan, so they don't really give you any affection. Afghans are pretty cold, but she'll give me a lot of affection over the dishes. So I just have to wash. I always keep a dish in the sink because I get an extra hug, if
it was like when I was a teenager and I finally figured out the secret to my mom was just the first thing to do when I walked in the house was just empty the dishwasher. If I did that, I was free and clear. But it took me a huge point of my like teenage years to figure that out. Like, and then when I was about 17, I realized if I just walk in the house and just walk straight to the dishwasher, put everything away, my mom ain't bugging me about nothing. I can go up to my room, smoke my bong, do whatever I want, dude. But if the dishwasher wasn't, she was down there waiting to hear that thing get building up. Because I get it now as a parent, like you just sort of sit and you're waiting to hear the thing, and you don't hear it, and you just start getting more crinkled and more crinkled and more crinkled, and next thing you know, it's like you find the one thread, and you're like, I'm going in, dude. You're done. I'm nuking on you and you're done, dude. So yeah, it's funny because I've only had one roommate. It was rad because I figured out that thing a long time ago. And I moved in with my buddy Skyler. And he met, like, when we were moving, he's like, look, dude, there's only one rule around here, dude. The kitchen's to look like this. That's it. Like, and I was like, bro, thank God. That's all I've ever wanted to hear. Like, we can keep the sink and the kitchen clean. We're like, you live like that too. Fantastic. Yeah, that ain't gonna work, dude. Eating the food ain't gonna work, bro.
Last one. I'm hungry, man. Yeah. I used to live with Jason Lee. That was crazy, bro. I live with Jason Lee, and I had to talk about a freak in the, a weirdo in the kitchen, man. I would have a habit of leaving a little bit of air inside the Ziploc bag. Like, if say, we would keep our cheese in the Ziploc bag and we would just kind of eat the same food, we kind of shopped and together and ate the same food together. So if I hadn't taken out all the air from the Ziploc bag, he would go into this like 10-minute tirade about like, you know, things getting in there like LSD. What if LSD comes in there and I, you know, you have to seal it, get all the air out, or if LSD comes in there and I take the cheese and then I start tripping and then I go to the hospital as a panic attack, you know, it's going to be your fault. And he was
LSD, dude.
It was he was scared that somehow a little leprechaun is going to come into the house if the Ziploc bag wasn't sealed tightly and put LSD inside the cheese.
Because you were that dosed out.
Well, I wasn't dosed out then, but he was just paranoid that that was his biggest fear, was someone's going to put LSD in his food and he's going to trip out and lose himself forever. That was that was Jason Lee's like kryptonite.
Crazy, dude. That is some kryptonite, bro.
Yeah, it was really weird.
I was always on the program of like, if you have any, drop it in my mouth while I'm sleeping so I can wake up already tripping, man.
What happens? You've probably gone. Have you taken a lot of psychedelics before? You probably have, right? I'd like you to meet my friend Hamish. Hey Hamish, this is my friend John. Hey Nyan, what's up, John? Whoa, Nyan, you look like Snoopy right now. Whoa. Yeah. Don't mind my friend Hamish. He's on his 25th hit right now.
Oh, dude, you know my thing that I used to like to do. And this was always through all of it. I used to like to trip by myself and go hang with people.
I was the same exact way.
And fully just being like, they don't know anything, so whatever, and just try to maintain the whole time. I used to, it was funny. It's like the similar thing. I used to have this buddy of mine I live with. When I used to rent this couch in this beach house in Malibu. So I used to live on this couch, and this dude hated Coke. So my favorite thing to do was to have Coke dropped off at my truck in the driveway, go do big old rails. And I would sit with a copy of the LA Times, like right next to him on the couch. And I would just hold the paper open and sit there next to him. I used to call it mental jumping jacks. And I would just sit there and just be like sweating and just tripping, like
holding
the paper, dude. Pretending
for how long?
Dude. Oh, for hours, dude. Till I was ready to go do another line, and then I'd come back and turn the page, dude. Just sit there in the newspaper, staring at the crack, just being like, this dude don't know I'm high on cocaine, dude. This is great, dude.
That's hilarious.
Like, just madness, dude. I was way into like madness of it all, dude. I didn't like that. Like, you know how they say in like Alcoholics Anonymous and stuff, like, there's just people that don't like losing control. Like, oh no, I was that full. I loved being out of control, but maintaining it for the civilians, right? Like all up in here control. Like, yeah. And just inside it's I'm just sitting there. Mm-hmm.
I remember one night I was with Christian Fletcher, Danny Way, and we went to go and watch Christian Fletcher's death metal band on
Mutilage.
Yeah, Mutilage.
Dude, that's my boys, dude.
Yeah,
Chris Williams and Jody Kern and all them. Mutilage.
Okay. Okay. Well, I didn't know the band members, but we went to Christian's house. It was all dark and like black lights and like skulls everywhere. And I just remember taking a bunch of mushrooms and then like looking at these guys and like, these dudes are freaking gnarly. And I was already kind of going through my own like awakening, trying to like become more sort of on the light side rather than the dark side, and they were pretty dark at that time, you know, just different kind of darkness. But yeah, man, I did no complies though that night, I think like waist high, because I had a really poppy board, and I figured out how to do 180 no complies by just like super like feather light on the tail and then like snapping it. And it was a trip. Yeah, I remember like doing no complies almost like waist high. Maybe not waist high.
Yeah,
But a
dude.
little bit. Yeah.
That whole
I was on mushrooms, so everything was like, you kind of see. I was talking about it last night, that LSD and psychedelics, they bring the subtleties of life, like the subtleties of the picture that you're beholding. They bring the most subtle aspect of it to the forefront. And I said that after taking so much LSD and hallucinogenics during my life, I got stuck with that, like that, looking at the world like that. So even till now, I'll always pick out the subtleties of a situation. I think you're the same way. Like when you look at the world and look at what's going on, you don't see the obvious of what everyone else sees. You'll see like the underpinning, like what's the reason behind this kind of thing, rather than the thing itself.
Well, that's why I'm a big anti the marketing of the thing. Like that's why I'm a big anti like the promotion of these said substances, because you need to find, like, they need to be found in their own not pure way, because they're super, I don't want to say dangerous, but they have the ability for the unsound mind to like, it might be too much electricity in the circuit board, dude.
I think so.
Like, you know, because like I remember, like, I never ever took them recreationally. Like when I did psychedelics, man, I was going in on some like, all right, dude, like, and that's, you know, that was in the 80s and the 90s.
I was pretty therapeutic when I took it. Like I was going into myself to figure things out and be alone. And
oh yeah, I don't even know if it was that. I was definitely getting into like my spacesuit and going to explore the cosmos and whatever it was inside of there. And you know, there's you know, that's that weird thing they try to hype, is like it's there's some pretty dark corners in there. And you know, you have to cross those bridges and there's no exits out. You got to ride it. You got to sit there and be like, uh-oh, I turned the corner into the dark room here. And
once you're on board, you can't really like eject.
Still getting off the train,
you can't really eject out of the space shuttle.
Oh, dude, I remember sitting in this one up in Gold, I should name it, and this hot spring up in Idaho, in the middle, and took too much and asked the wrong question. Dude, I was sitting in the hot tub with these things, and I'll tell you, we were sitting in the hot tub on the side. We'd hiked in and camp like a camping one. We had brought the sheet acid. We're up in this thing. We're in this rad hot springs with these. It just was one of those fantasy lands. And the thing, all of a sudden, the sky is just a big woo, like the lights coming out of the dark sky, like right into the hot tub, dude. I mean, in the hot spring, and ooh, and all of a sudden, I just go, why? Dude, the minute I asked why, it got super mad at me. And I ran from the hot spring. And I ran up the side of the mountain. And I just boogied. And then I turned around and I couldn't see anything. And I'm sitting up there, and all of a sudden it got real cold. And I was like,
you on mushrooms?
And all I saw was my friend's like flat lighter smoking the bowl in the hot tub, like this little pinpoint of light just in the thing. And I climbed down the thing and I got back in the hot spring, and I rode. And by then they were on like another plane with it all, and I was rattled. And I went and I I got back after I was like, I just got in my sleeping bag, and there was these. I know what they look like. These crazy elves jumping around up in the trees, dude. And I'm laying there, and I just was like, dude, you're on drugs, bro. Like the sun will rise eventually. And just sit there in my sleeping bag, just being like, the sun's gonna rise, bro. It was a long night, but I didn't crack. I didn't go. You know what I mean? Because it was all trying to get me to go and turn into the orange, dude. Right? You know, the mythical orange. Like it wanted me to become the orange. I was like,
I had this term. It was weird. You know, it's interesting you say orange. I had a voice that came to me when I was tripping. When I was with Christian Fletcher and those guys, it was the morning. I was up all night on mushrooms, and that morning, I went to Christian's friend's house to watch some surf footage of Christian doing a kickflip, the first kickflip on a surfboard. He did it I think it was right out of San Clemente, one of those local beaches on a little wave. He freaking flipped his surfboard and landed it. And we were like, what? And then the guy was passing the bong around, and I was still feeling the effects of the mushrooms the night before. As soon as I hit the bong, I was literally just like thrusted into some like other world. And I was looking at everyone. They started to look like trolls and demons, like Christian and Danny. They all started to look like scary. Like they changed. I was like, I got to get out of here. I left the house, and I was in freaking cartoon land. And when I was walking around San Clemente, I had to actually call the police because I freaked out. I was freaking lost it.
You called the cops on yourself.
No way. Well, I called the ambulance, and then the cops came, and with an ambulance, they're like, we can't put you in an ambulance. We have to arrest you. So I'm like frying balls off, and I'm being like, and the cop had one of those super long necks, like an alien neck, you know, like it was a trip. But the words that came was not orange. It was crimson. It was like, you're going to have a crimson clog, which is like crimson, like red. And I was like a blood clot or something. I don't know what it meant, but that was like the word that kept kind of, but it wanted me to go and jump off the bridge. Like, go up to that bridge and go and fly. Go up that bridge over there and fly. You can fly. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go fly. I was like, no, I can't fly. And I had this internal dialogue. And then I finally was like, oh, I got to go to the hospital and drink some black stuff to come down. And then Bill Weiss came and picked me up at the hospital. So weird, man.
Well, that's the thing that like it is now is once you see, it doesn't ever turn off. Like I always try to tell people that like I'm what, 14 years sober, dude. I'm frying harder than I ever did, dude. because you described it perfectly. It's the subtleties, dude. Like it's like, I don't just sit there and drive down the street la-di-da. It's like something will catch me I'll see somebody or something, and I'll instantly tap into that story, and I'll like, ooh, that's some gnarliness, or like, ooh, that's some like the other side of it. Like it's like today it's like the thing is like, you see it, like you'll see something and you'll know what that is, and you'll be like, ooh, that's gnarly. Or you'll connect on the other side, and it'll be like, okay, that's the sign of we're moving forward. There's like this, ooh, that's gnarly. Or we're going closer to God. Like, you know, it's very much, there's no time off to be like, yeah. So it's always, I think Neil Kramer gets pretty good into that stuff about how like the whole psychedelic experience stuff is just a vacation from reality. Like if you really like, that's the easy stuff.
It's escapism.
Yeah. The real hard thing is to stay here and not run away from it and be like,
totally.
okay, like what, and it kind of circles back to like,
that goes with weed, that goes with alcohol, that goes with meth, porno. All of these different things are mechanisms to pull us away from reality.
oh yeah, well, it's that you said it on the front side. It's that thing is like, as a parent, you really have a chance to totally check in or miss it. Like there's not like it's funny, like there's this kid who's on Owl's soccer team, dude, and it's like it's one of these poor kids. He's like 70, lives with grandma, dad's like in jail, mom's a junkie, like just the story, and you're just like it's like you feel that, like, whoa, dude, like, and it's like there's a helplessness to it all, like you're like, oh, like that's a soul that need, like, oh, dude, like, whoa, what a journey. Like it's not just like, oh yeah, well, whatever, dude. It's like, whoa, dude, because I'm a parent. I'm like it's the opposite of like, because then it's like that thing. Sometimes I'm like, I'm being too hard, or I'm being a dick, and then you go, oh well, at least I'm here and present and like willing to battle it out with you, son. Like versus like the parents that are just like, here, watch the TV, and I'm gonna go suck down some beers at the local bar, and like, blah, I'm all in, for better or worse, dude. So
Yeah.
it is like, and
yeah, I mean, you because the cost of not being all in is looking back years down the line and seeing, Daddy, I want to chop my weenie off. Or
dude, I mean, look, I mean,
and it's like, well, why? Well, it was because I don't know, I didn't have your mentorship. I didn't have daddy around. I was just like, I had the iPad, and there was really cool like YouTube videos teaching me how to like, teaching me what's possible about myself.
well, it's funny. We like, it's trippy how things work. Like Al and I have been having these in-depth, like, as something clicked with me like recently, like we're all, we're like a whole Star Wars Lego, that's like our guilty pleasure, right? So like we're all in that, we watch our little like that's our one thing we do, is we watch our little like Clone Wars and stuff like that. And like, so like about a month ago, it dawned on me that of that this is this real lens into like the truth is hidden inside of these other things that are there, right? They're disguised. It's trying to tell you. And we, like, about a month ago, we stumbled in this 2-part episode of the Clone Wars, and it was like the whole thing about the bankers and the military and the two sides being controlled to fight each other, and how the one Jedi girl, Ahsoka, is like discovering like, me and Al had this like long conversation about like reality via the thing, because he's like, and I was like, no, we watched it like 3 times because it was like all right there. And then we've been watching, there's this new little Jedi Tales, whatever, they're like 15 minutes each. There's like 6 of them, but we watched them all, and like there's this gnarliness to it all underneath the thing. But if you're paying attention to the deal, and it was this crazy thing where like the Jedi are idiots in the end of the thing, not because they're bad, but because they're so trusting, they believe what they're being told. And it's this thing about how like the one dude who's like turns into be the real bad Jedi, Dooku, it's this backstories where he sees the corruption in the system. And he's asking himself, why would you be but he's a Jedi, right? And the Jedi follows the code and the whole thing and the this and the that. And then there's the other one who's Ahsoka, who sees the same thing on the other side. And I go, that's what it's about, Owl, is like a person, like, you've got to be able to not get involved with the group think. You have to break free. But when you break free, that freedom of breaking free will either lead you to the darkness or lead you to the light. But the only way you get to go to the light is to truly understand the darkness, right? And reject it, because you know that you have it, inside of you.
Yeah.
But it's been a very fascinating thing how these things come up, because they don't come up how I would have figured they would have. As you know, out there, we were out there doing like lumberjack, like firewood stuff. It doesn't come up like chopping firewood, like these real like deep lessons in life. It had to do with like Jedis and Star Wars, and then we sat and like asking real questions about like what it is to be, you know, not part of the status quo. And like your birthright, like I was talking to him about his birthright, is like, you know, part of your birthright is you're not part of the status quo, but like that's vigilance. And there's going to become a time where you're going to, you know, you're going to have to stand up for yourself against all the pressures around you and make the right decision, dude. And that's my job, is to help you get enough education inside of your brain to make that decision without me telling you what that is, or even being there. Like, you're going to have to make that decision on your own. But you see this now with these Jedis and this thing is this little, as a 7-year-old boy watching it with your Legos, being like, why is what? And then, but no, underneath there is this thing about like, you're going to have to make a choice of which way you're going to go at a certain point. I mean, we've all had to make it, you know, that's why we're even talking about the subtleties, you know, like you and I made the choice. I mean, that's why we come here and check in every now and then, is we chose. They ain't getting me.
Man,
I'm out.
You know,
their game.
Our kids are pretty fortunate that they have, you know, not
crazy fortunate,
you know, that they have us to, you know, God willing, to guide them, because I didn't have that when I was growing up. My dad was, you know, my dad was kind of checked out. He tried, and what I realized is I had to take the long way around, you know, and I had to like kind of bump my head by myself to really understand it. And I had to go through some really painful experiences alone to truly understand the value of not acquiescing to my lower desires, just to not, like, you know, that's the biggest thing. Like, as you're growing, for a young man or a young woman, to like, as you grow and you become like, you get in touch with your self agency, to know that like you could either give yourself to certain things or you can hold yourself back. And I never was taught how to hold myself back from things. So it was like anything that came in front of me, I would just go after it. You know, it doesn't matter, porn, food, prostitution, or whatever, you know, it's like you go into everything, because you know, you don't know the value yet of restraint.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing of like teaching your child, or teaching any young person, or anyone for that matter. Even adults now don't know the value of restraining themselves.
Well, and that's the hustle right now, right? It's all about not restraint. Like that's what's fascinating about, like, you know, the whole thing right now. It's all about, there was no restraint during the coup. There's no restraint going on over in the wheat fields. There's no restraint going on in social media. There's no restraint going on anywhere. It's this like free for all under the guise of equity, dude. We're all going to have equity in our inability. Like, we're not going to restrain, and anyone who's talking restraint, we're going to label them as the enemy. Like, call it a conservative, call it someone who
say that it's called a conservative, but
it's that
and
weird
it's not,
thing.
Though it's not even the conservatives are the ones who are equally as the liberals are, just in a different slant.
Yeah, but I don't mean like in the faction sense of it, is like, you know, a conservative by like, I conserve things, dude. Like I want to conserve the land. I want to conserve my money. I want to conserve my soul. I want to but that's what I mean is the thing has been so bastardized right now that like anyone who speaks out against war is labeled an appeaser or a commie or a weirdo. And it's the thing is like war is like the epitome of no restraint, like no respect for property, human rights, laws, anything. It's just we now get to go and just no restraints and everybody's backing that. And anyone who says that you shouldn't do that is labeled, you know, if you're in the wheat fields one, you're labeled as you know, an appeaser. If you're talking about what's going on in Palestine, you're an anti-Semite, dude. I mean, dude, look, man, that's funny. You're gonna get me going for a second here. I am so appalled at what's going on. Again, I can't believe the world is silent about what's going on in Palestine right now. It's beyond, and no one knows. The wheat fields have taken, it's like the cover of story of the century is what's going on over there. And no one cares, and no one's saying a word because of the wheat fields. And dude, like it blows my mind what like that is even allowed to occur under the guise of some sort of it stuns me sometimes, dude.
They threw a pebble at me.
But you know, but it's again, it's this weird thing where like nobody's called into like have any restraint about any of their
Well,
actions.
I think that yeah, I mean, that's another conversation.
It's such a grim one. But it's the weird thing of like, I think it ties into everything. Like right now is if you look at like the Yi black backlash and like somehow in the weird thing, Yi has made himself.
I think that there's a very sophisticated algorithm and AI at play here. I really do believe that. Like there's like with Anthony Patch's work, I still really believe that the quantum computer system and the AI and the algorithm are really, I think everyone is fed their own individual reality based on their own set of beliefs. And right now we're being like siloed from each other in different ways. There is like something like when someone like Ye comes out and says what he says, I never was a fan of him. I told you that. But when I listen to him now, I'm like, that's actually makes sense. But let me say this. It's not lost on me that there's another thing going on here. And there's an old plan called the Aliyah. And the Aliyah is to get very intelligent Jews who are smart, who are resourceful, who are connected, who are wealthy, who are up and comers, to get them to go back to Israel and help build out the infrastructure. And I say that because that was an old saying that was always been an old plan. And I think that there's this whole rise in so-called anti-Semitism through the media to sort of stir up this fear inside the Jewish people in America to get some of them, not all of them, but to get a large portion of them to make Aliyah back to Israel. The reality of it is that hardly anyone likes Israel to live there. It's, you know, they might go there on vacation, but, you know, it's not a very nice place to live. So I think that's part of the thing is there's another thing going on to make some of the Jews move back to Israel. Then there's other thing, which is, you know, obviously the sacrificial lamb is someone like a Kanye to usher in more laws when it comes to free speech. Obviously, that's another angle. I'm sure there's multiple angles, but
I don't even know if it's like I think for me, like I think you hit it on the first note, like. So, you know, like you were both into like Anthony Patch, and Anthony Patch went underground, and I would call that a divine intervention in the sense, because I think where he was going with it was I think he'd almost crossed over into like a dark space about it, right? Spending like when you spend so much time focusing on what you're up against, you ultimately have to become that in a weird way. So like where Patch goes underground, like he's all about the chips and the D waves and the whole thing and the thing, right? And all of that. But you know who picks it up really well and brings it back into sort of a palatable format is the quantum of consciousness. I've gone into the quantum of consciousness lately, and that dude's basically taking that whole theory and taking the sort of sort of dumbing it down, I guess, if you will, and making it back into a more translucent way to approach this matrix that we're in, right? While Patch sort of just kept getting like quantum of consciousness refers to the D-Wave computer as the great snow cone machine. Like it's just a joke too. Like where Patch fully invested in the thing, quantum of consciousness is like, no, that's another trap to get you back down into the lower level, dude.
Yeah, I mean, because I got to get off in like 10 minutes.
Okay.
I do think, I think that's spot on what you just said with quantum of conscious is position on it, because it goes back to the Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
Like the little guy behind the curtain, you know, it's like this big machine or whatever you want to call that they call Oz. It really, at the end of the day, is just a guy pulling levers and pushing buttons. And it really isn't anything except smoke and mirrors. And I think a lot of this is like sideshow sorcery. It's like circus sideshow bearded ladies.
For sure.
It's not that a lot. That's what propaganda is. Propaganda is to throw up a message that makes people turn the other direction or whatever direction you want them to turn. That's all propaganda is. It's to get you to do something. Other than the weird
thing that trick right before Patch went underground, and we were there right at the thing, is when he started going about how the crucifix was actually like a sign of the devil and this, and so I was like, well, I would like, look, dude, you're spinning it so the other way. I was like, that's a bit like I get not getting welded into symbology and all that stuff, but now you're just cutting it all off at like a level where you're taking everything away, which is fine, but that's between you and God. Like that's me in the mirror with God, right? If you're going to strip me bare of it, that's with me and God. But you as a man trying to use all that stuff to dishearten me, I have to like red flag that and be like, why are you trying why are you trying to shove me down into like this, into fear again? Like really, you're trying to get me afraid of this thing. And I go, I can see what your angle is about it. There's a good question to be asked there, but now you're doing what the devil does, is trying to make me afraid of God again, dude. And I go, and because at the end of the day is right, the dude with the levers and the puppet and the mirrors, like inside of us, right? It's the ego, the one that sits there that doesn't have the patience to deal with child or wife or the dishes or whatever it is that we have to go confront constantly when we sit there and go, I'm a little off course here. Like, why am I off course? It's not, I can't blame LSD or crack pipes or porno or world chaos.
If you were to just transition tomorrow to a female, that option is there.
Yeah.
You won't have to worry about all these responsibilities anymore.
I get an EBT card and a house on the hill.
You do. Chop it off. Clean chop.
You have gone to my head in a bag channel, right?
Yeah.
Where I put the wig and the lipstick on.
No.
Dude, so I got a whole kit of stuff here. I pretend to be AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and I put the wig and the lipstick on, dude. I kind of brought it back. I was doing it a couple of years ago. But No. I used to joke about this a decade ago, man. Like I'd be better off sneaking across the border, sneaking back in and claiming to be anything but like what I am. Like, but that's again, is this weird thing to escape yourself, right? Like, I tattoo my face and put some wings in my nose and I'm good to go. And again, well, that's a spiritually speaking, having worked with a lot of those people in that condition, is like, if you truly understand it, you don't need to ever change your body, because like the problem's deep inside yourself.
I'm a little unkind towards that whole thing, because not towards the individual people. And I think that it's insulting, to our intelligence.
You know what's insulting is this, and I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I think this is cogent. So they just recently had someone go to, like, we'll keep it generic for the YouTubers, for Susan down at the thing. So last week they sent someone into the White House to meet Joe Biden, right? Someone who's claiming to be somebody that they claim they are now that they're not, right? And they're one of these things. And so you're doing this thing and it's up in arms. And then you realize that person in the midst of it claimed, I'm in my 261st day as a female. And you're like, wait a minute, dude, the person representing that group of people, right, supposedly, is someone that's only been in the game for 260 some days, is now at the White House meeting this person. And I go, wait a minute. I've known people in my life now for over a decade that are fully re-augmented into that role, and they ain't getting invited to the White House.
Yeah.
So I think the big sign that is like this weird psyop is that number was dropped out of it. And I'm not in the numerology of the thing, is that the person representing it actually didn't even make it a year in that space. I found that fascinating when we're trying to debunk what they're really doing, because I think that like at the end of the day is, you're not wrong on any level why you're up in arms about it.
Well, I heard the sauce is
the sauce thing. It's another conversation.
The sauce might be a therapy in and of itself as well, to make you lean a certain way.
The sauce is doing all sorts of crazy stuff. I mean, how about the fact we weren't wrong, dude? Like that these people that the court just said they get their job.
I'm still waiting for one of my friends to apologize to me, but I don't think that'll ever happen.
No, I'm waiting for it too, but that's never going to happen, because you know what? This is weird. I was down in Sprouts in Bakersfield today, right? And I went to the bathroom and they had the employees of the month kind of thing. And I glanced at it and I was like, oh, what's so weird about that thing? And I came back and every employee except for two had the face coverings on. And I was like, that's so weird. I was like, and it was current. It was like the most current one. And then like back, there were like two that didn't. And I was like, that's so strange that like that's real. Like people are it's real. We're not, it's real for them.
Yeah.
But the courts have said it's not.
The scary thing is that there's been a fundamental shift in the way the associations that people have with the government and the system, that's one thing that I think Anthony Patch did hit, is that there has emerged a serf class of people, or a serving class of people.
Sure.
That's for sure. I gotta jump off.
All right, later, brother. I get it.
I love you, bro. Let's do another one Friday. Let's try to keep it consistent. This is really, okay. This is perfect.
All right. God bless, brother.
Love you, bro.
Love you too.